Howdy folks, this is a video about the 2024 Toyota Tacoma Trailhunter, specifically about its overland functionality and all its cool toys, gadgets, and gizmos. This is Bramble. I'm Andrew. I'm no YouTuber, but I'm a pretty experienced overlander, so I really wanted to focus on this truck from the outside, from the inside, kind of look at its hardware and its toys, its electronic functions, and then finally its cargo management and how it can help you take your family on a cool adventure. First, we gotta distract the dog. Ready? Come on, go! So the first thing that caught my eye about this thing is the color. It's called a bronze oxide. It's freaking glorious. It really helps contribute to making this truck look like a Halo Warthog. It's unreal. It's so cool. It's like part green, part gold. I freaking love it. So starting with the front bumper, this stuff is plastic. It's a reasonably robust plastic, so I'm not too concerned about that, although clearly somebody has damaged it before I got to borrowing it. As we move down, we've got a skid plate. We've got a couple of little Easter eggs. There's some old school Yoders emblazoned in the plastic there. But the main part of the skid plate is aluminum. Looks like about 2.5 millimeters thick. I like the looks of this. It feels very strong and rigid, but due to the fact that it's aluminum, not steel, I'm optimistic that it's not crazy heavy. Obviously with armoring, you've got to walk a fine line between weight and strength, like I guess everything with a truck like this. And this looks pretty good. It came with a little document here, little map of it, so you can see that big centerpiece labeled E. That's a jack point. That's going to be really helpful if you want to mess with get both front wheels off the ground quickly. You can just get a jack right in there. That's nice. I love functionality like that. Moving back, you can see it's pretty deep. It covers back. Not only the engine, but the beginning of the transmission is protected. And then if we go even deeper, let's get the big old light going on. Oh, there we go. Let's see, is this aluminum too? Yeah, this looks like it might be, yeah, that's the same. So that whole piece is also aluminum. Oh yeah, it covers the whole transmission. That's great. That's a lot of protection. It goes all the way to the cross member there. And then further back, you can see the fuel tank. Let's walk around there. Let's get a good look at that. Just one last eye-catching exterior feature before we move to the back. The Snorkle. Now, Toyota says this is for grabbing clean air. They don't talk about driving through water, which is smart because if your water line is up to here, your truck's gone. Climb onto the roof and pray. You're not driving anymore. But you could get cleaner air from up high, and it does sound very cool when you're driving along. So how that works is, air comes through there, goes down here, and then there must be piping inside the fender because you can see there's another little port into this, which is like a cone style filter. And then filter goes on into the engine. All right. This, I believe that looks like, yeah, this is plastic. So that's going to give you some protection, but I guess Toyota is not anticipating you taking a hard hit there. It's pretty high. It's pretty tucked in. I think you're okay. I kind of wish, well, it looks like the tank itself is just above this frame rail. So if you get a really hard hit, I think you would land on this frame rail first. I wouldn't want to, either way. And then as we come over here, you can see the transfer case has a little tiny piece of armor on it as well. That I wouldn't want to land on, but like if a rock hits it, that's going to give you a little last ditch protection. Exhaust, yeah, it's just barely hanging down below the frame rail. And it's funny, look where it terminates before the diff. So you've got like no muffler hanging out at the back. That's interesting. But it's pretty high up. Let's go this way. And before we work our way back to the front, I want to show you a piece of armoring on the rear differential. What do we got here? Yeah, let's take a close look at that. Let's see, is this aluminum as well? Yep. Looks like about the same thickness as the front one. And I do like the looks of this. It's a pretty robust looking differential, but this is going to be the low point, obviously, under the vehicle. So this is going to be subject to potential impacts. And I do like how well armored that is. That's legit. So let's go back. Let's talk suspension now while we're underneath. But I want to go back to the front, if you don't mind. So this is independent front suspension, like all Toyota trucks and 4Runners do now. There are some people in the off-road community that are all about the solid front axle. Less so these days, but basically it's like a Jeep Wrangler has like one solid sewer pipe axle that connects the two front wheels. And there is something to be said for the robustness of that. But an independent suspension like this is going to give you much better just like ride quality, basically. And this lower control arm, which is what's going to take the brunt of any sort of impact, is extremely robust. I mean, that's big. I would run with confidence. I mean, the upper one, that's stamped for the Trailhunter logo it's a little bit extra, but the ball joint there and here, these are large. I have no doubt that this can take a beating, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. This axle, there's the axle with the two boots, you see that? It's not like insanely thick, but it's not tiny or puny looking either. But like I said, what's going to take any sort of impact is going to be this stuff, really, like a landing impact. I don't think axle damage is going to be a concern on this truck, really. Let's see what else we got. So, okay, while we're talking thickness, we got the Old Man Emu suspension. Old Man Emu is a pretty well-established overlanding suspension brand. They've been around for a very long time. I think most popular in Australia. So again, we're seeing thickness, right? It's all about the thickness. What the short story there is basically a shock strut like this is going to be flowing fluid all the time. And when you have this much thickness, you can flow fluid more efficiently, which can keep your temperature down, which means you can basically drive off-road for longer without the suspension getting fatigued. And yes, that does happen, believe it or not, in a long off-road adventure. Last thing we'll talk about the front suspension is this disconnectable stability bar or sway bar. So do you see this pipe, that sewer pipe that kind of runs back and forth? Most cars have something like that. It basically just helps keep the car stable at speed. And some off-road vehicles have like a quick disconnect function. That's what that electronic thing is. Basically, you can hit a button in the cab, which we'll talk about later, and that can disconnect, which lets the front wheels kind of flop more independently, more easily, which is good for off-road when you want more articulation. And then you hit a switch, and it zips itself back up. A few more quick comments about armoring. So these side rails are, let's see, how are they attached? They're bolted in. They're steel. They're definitely not plastic. So I think this would give you some decent protection from the bottom. I think these could take a pretty good hit. Up here, you'll notice that the bottom, like 6 inches of the truck has got this texturized, like it almost looks like it's rusting. But that's actually for protection. It's just more rock chip resistant. Actually, more vehicles than you might realize have something like this along the bottom. They're kind of bumpy looking, but yeah, how effective that actually is, I don't know. It doesn't look good. I'll be honest with you. It looks like the truck's rusting. It's a bummer. I almost wish they had gone for like a plastic cladding all the way around, which may be a controversial opinion, but I don't know. I think that could have been good. So finally, we'll talk armor in the back. We've got a rear bumper made by ARB, and that's a big overland accessory company. This is steel. This looks plastic, but it is not. That's steel. That's heavy duty. This is for towing. You want to throw like a recovery strap around there. This, of course, is going to be your trailer hitch receiver. I think you could put a jack on there. That seems pretty strong. If you have a high lift jack, that's what is meant to be accepted here. So we actually have one. This is like a farm tool. This is popular in the overland scene because they look cool and they're very robust. I don't like them because they're quite dangerous. You can really easily store a lot of kinetic energy in this, and then when you're not realizing it, like it can snap on you. So if you don't know how to use this, don't bring it out to the field. Watch a lot of YouTube videos, get a demo. Yeah, take it easy. But hey, give me that! Give me that! Well, there go my notes. All right, gonna have to wing the rest of this video. That mouth goes in there. That's why I dragged this whole thing out, just to show you that. Okay. Bramble, are you serious? Look what you did to my notes. You jerk. Hey, I need... There are a lot of different roof rack, roof box configurations you can order from Toyota. This particular one has this ARB, like I guess you would call this a light bar, really? I mean, you could put a light on there. It would be kind of redundant, but there's a 25-pound weight limit per side. So theoretically, you could use this to mount something. Maybe not a fuel tank because that'd be a bit heavy, but maybe a shovel. It does look cool. So I like it from an aesthetic standpoint, and it's definitely nicely integrated with the body. Before we go into the cab and start pushing buttons, check out what's in the cargo bed. I'm not just talking about the toys I brought. So over here, we've got a air compressor with a digital control. I'll show you that in a second. We've got the tube for the air compressor. It lives down there. And then we've got an AC 120 volt, 2400 watt power inverter. Now the significance of that high wattage, most vehicular power inverters can do about 400 watts, which is fine for charging a phone or a computer or camera or something. But it is not enough to power something that creates heat. Anything that is electronic that makes heat uses a lot of electricity, like a coffee maker. It has long been one of my personal fantasies to put a coffee maker from an airplane in my truck, but it's not been possible because the electronic demands are so high. However, this coffee maker is about 1600 watts, much too high for a normal power inverter, but this one ought to get it done. So we do have to get into the cab, actually, push a button. I'll just quickly say, same there. 2400 watts. Let's power it up. We got to hit this button. We'll probably have to turn the parking brake on. And then let's see. Let's see if it works. First, I'm going to grind my beans because I'm guessing if you're spending 65 grand on an overland truck, you're not trying to drink gas station coffee. Come on. It's tough to do one-handed. There we go. Bean grind. All right, disconnect my grinder, get my coffee maker in there. Now, of course, there are plenty of lovely ways to make coffee while you're camping without electricity. However, it is pretty sweet. Like if I had all my buddies out here, have something like this. You do have to have the truck running while this inverter is in use, which makes sense because you would drain the battery in no time. But remember when we were underneath and we saw that the exhaust terminates before the back axle? That's it's really not stinky or noisy back here, which is nice. Bramble, you want any coffee? No? Thank God. It's the last thing she needs. But ours is done. Let's give it a shot. Oh, that's a nice cuppa. Some trucks have cup holders back here, like in the bed. This one apparently does not. But no big deal. Yeah, I mean, I know that's going to be good because that's my local beans. This is not some BS gas station garbage. Delectable. All right, so before everyone says I'm just the candy-ass coffee boy, let's get back to the off-road stuff. So under the inverter, you've got this little box which holds the Toyota compressor kit. Now in this little pouch, you've got adapters to fill up like a raft or an inflatable or something. And then here, we've got a hose for charging tires. So that's going to bring us over here to the compressor control center. There's your pneumatic air hose. There's a little charger for USB-C, and there's a SIG lighter style 12 volt. Turn it on, and yes, you've got a little digital control center back here. It's quite impressive. So 30 PSI is what the factory calls for the tires on the side, but let's say we want to deflate. If we're going into like a mud or a soft sand situation, we might want as low as, I don't know, let's say 18? Let's put it down to 18. You could go lower than that, but for the sake of, let's say we're about to hit a beach. It's kind of wet sand. It doesn't look super soft. We'll go with 18. Ooh, it's ready. So obviously what we want to do is come down here to the tire. We'll do this in real time so you can get a legit perspective on how it works. Put that there so I don't forget it. And now, really nice knurling on this twist. This is a good rope. Over here, it's already in action. There are, of course, other ways to do this. You could, there are tools that exist to drain air, or you could stick a key on the end of the thing and kind of drain air by visual, but this is much more elegant. It's much easier. I can set it and forget it. I can go back to my coffee. Nice. Bingo. Finished. And yeah, as you can see, we've flattened out a little bit more. As you might know, the reason you air down is you get a wider traction patch, but that's not good when you get back on the highway. So let's say we do that all the way around. We did our mudding or our sand trip. Now I want to get back to 30. Let's see how that goes. Go. Let's see how long it takes. Might need to cool down a little bit from its last adventure. So if you're ever wondering what tire pressure you're meant to be at, you're going to find that around here. See how long it takes to reflate. Reinflate? Reflate? I can speak. All right, and we're back ready to hit the road. Pretty cool. With all the junk out of the bed, you can get a better appreciation for the cargo tie downs, of which there are quite a few. Got these cleats. We've got a really cool looking bed liner, even more cleats. One other thing that I find a little frustrating is there's really no good place to put a foot. You really gotta get all the way up there if you want to climb up, which, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's kind of high, isn't it? Basic design and layout of the Trailhunter interior is pretty much the same as every other Tacoma, but there are enough unique gizmos in here that it's worth checking out. So first I want to show you this light control panel down here. We've got a lot of stuff. So there's the inverter button that we activated to make the coffee earlier. Here's the headlight tilt switch. So if you're carrying a heavy load or towing something and the butt of the truck squats, you can adjust the way the headlights are aimed to compensate for that. That's pretty cool. Aux 1, 2, 3, we'll get back to that in 1 second. And then the light bar and the fog light button that you saw earlier. So to activate those, we're going to use the regular headlights, just like we would. And then the fog light switch is here. Boom. And then down here, so see how it's amber? That color's amber. If I press it, they turn white. So we can cycle between amber and white in those fog lights. That's pretty cool. The light bar is tied to the high beam for some reason. So I do high beam, and then I can hit that light bar. Boom. That's cool. So these factory installed aux switches, this is something that Ford's been doing on the Raptor for a long time. aux 1, 2, 3. They light up here, but they're not currently wired up to anything. The idea there is, I'll show you where the clips are there. Oh, hi, Pooch. Excuse me. So up in here, see that little piece of plastic? That right there? That covers 3 different wires, 3 wires in the ground. So each of those, you peel that piece of plastic off and you can run extra lights. I don't know why you would want even more lights, but that's what that's for. The Trailhunter only comes in this full 4-door configuration. There's no extended cab, short cab. Here's the back seat. It's not huge, but the materials are really nice. We've got it covered with the dog seat cover. It's very high. It's a long trip from the ground to the seat. And even our athletic baby Bramble has not been super enthused about jumping up there, but let's see. Ready? Bramble, come on, come on, hop. Nice, good girl. Good girl. You did well. Now will you hop right out? Whoop. Yep, good girl. So a couple things to look at back here. First of all, if you pull this, you can get access to, you can see the subwoofer, and then the jack and some tool kits stashed back there. That's a power sliding rear window. And down here, what I thought was a vent, this is actually an air intake for, hey, come on, no, stop. Bramble, that's mine. That's mine. Okay, anyway, this is not an HVAC vent. This is a cooling vent for the hybrid battery, which I found quite interesting. And that's actually something you need to know about as an overlander, because for one thing, look, it's already collecting bramble fluff. And for another, if you've got this area like packed full of junk, that's not going to be able to get airflow, and that's going to be bad. Same thing for if you've ever done driving in Baja, like, and you're driving with the windows open, you're going to get tons of dust in here, and you're definitely going to want to stay on top of cleaning these and keeping airflow, making sure air can get to them. Good thing to know about. Only other interesting factor in the back, we've got another 2400 watt plug in case you want to make your coffee in the back seat, and then 2 USBs for charging. Cup holders, 1 pocket. I don't know why there's not 2 pockets, only 1 pocket. And, you know, not an abundance of legroom. Just mid-sized truck things. A couple things on the console to draw your attention to. So, cup holders, one of them is slightly taller. The right is slightly taller, which I actually like. So if you have 2 same-size bottles, it'll be easier to grab one, not the other. Neat little feature I have actually not seen in another car. Up here, got some off-roady stuff. Do you remember earlier when we were looking at that front disconnectable sway bar? There's the button for that. All right, I'll show you real quick. Look out. Come on, scooch, get out of the way. Oh, there it is right there. There's that electronic piece. And there goes the dog with my hat. And yeah, all right, get back up in the cab. This button is for a locking rear differential. That's going to lock your left and right rear wheels together. And the advantage there is if you're in a situation where wheels are spinning, you can hit that, and then instead of the power going to the area of least traction, they'll be locked together and you'll be able to move forward more easily. All right, what else we got? This camera view button. This is pretty cool. So you hit this, and we get a little surround view there. Neato. You can change the color of the truck with this. That's pretty funny. I'm gonna, of course, keep it on the actual one. And that is real time. So you see my jack behind us? Remember when we were playing with that earlier? Let's see what else is going on out there. Oh, hi. We got Bramble on the cam. Let's see. Will she show up on the exterior scanners? There's the ball, there's the jack, and there's the dog. That's pretty funny. I mean, case in point. You're driving around, you got a pooch, and you can see him that way. So that's cool. This knob is all stuff that's been on the Tacoma for a while. You've got 4-wheel drive, high, 4 low. I'll put it in 4 high and then stick it in drive just so you can see. When I cycle through drive modes, I can it'll change what it thinks is appropriate for cameras. You got like, you know, that little tilt and pitch and roll thing, which is fine. And then, yeah, you've got your standard like sport, eco, crawl control. I'll just stick it back in 2-wheel drive since we're just gonna be puttering around town. As you can probably tell from the dramatically different lighting, it's taken me about 3 hours to get through the Tacoma Trailhunter's various features and gizmos. Hope you enjoyed it. I think Bramble did, and now we're gonna go for a little cruise and listen to that sweet Snorkle some more.